It's time to go back. How far? Back in time to the 70s, 1974 to be exact. And y'all, it's time for Marvel in the 70s. And tonight we're going to be talking about the first appearances of Wolverine. Hulk 180, 181, and 182. That's right, y'all. We did Weapon X a couple weeks ago. Now we're digging into the first appearance of Wolverine, which is a rather bizarre Hulk story. Let's talk about it. So Hulk just lands somewhere, and he just wrecks this fence, and this guy's like, yo, my fence, and he jumps out of the way. He winds up in Canada, right? And while he's in Canada, this dude shows up, and he goes, oh my God, the Hulk is back. We've prepared for this. Apparently, he just recently came into Canada smashing some shit. So this dude's like, we got to release Weapon X. And just hearing that, you're like, what the hell is going on? By the way, Len Wein, Herb Trimp, the creative team here. So then Hulk just fights some wolves, as one does. It's a really nice sequence. Really like the artwork here, the inking in particular. The color pops. And so then Hulk starts hearing this voice bidding him to come. And he's so pissed about the voice. And I love Hulk of this. Hulk of this era. The way he talks to people, and it's just fantastic. So he's going after the voice to smash the voice, right? Turns out it's this woman who's there with this dude who's in love with her, and her brother is the Windigo, her brother Paul. So she has already appeared in this book with the Windigo and this other dude. They appeared in like the 160s or something like that. She's got a plan. Her plan is that she is going to use a magical ritual and spell to somehow apply the curse of the Windigo to the Hulk. And her partner here, Georges, is like, yo, I don't know if I'm 100% down on this, okay? But alas, is what happens. They lure the Hulk. He remembers them, thinks of them as friends. And then, of course, she feeds him food, drugs him, he passes out. So they're about to do the ritual now. So the Windigo shows up. By the way, the Windigo is her brother. He was trying to survive and had to eat human flesh, and that cursed him to be the immortal Windigo, okay? And her friend, the man there who loves her, Georges, I think is his name. Georges? I don't know. It's Canadian. They're in Quebec. It's French-Canadian. Maybe it's like but anyway, that was probably offensive. Anyway, Hulk wakes up because no poison is strong enough to keep him asleep. He wakes up, and of course, a big battle ensues between him and the Windigo. And as they're just pouncing on each other, out of nowhere flies this little dude, the Wolverine. First time we ever hear him say anything, he says, if you really want to tangle with someone, why not try your luck against the Wolverine? Right before that, though, he called them freaks. So anyway, that was what Weapon X was referring to, and there is Wolverine's first full appearance right there at the end of 180. Though most people consider that a cameo. Now we're going to move to 181. This is the meat of this entire story. So Wolverine jumps in, just starts tearing ass through the Hulk and the Windigo. They have this nice righteous battle. All of a sudden, Hulk starts thinking to himself, hey, Wolverine's fighting the Windigo. He must be my friend, right? So then he decides to team up with Wolverine, and they go against the Windigo and just start tearing ass through him. And so the Hulk sets up the Windigo, smashes some trees against him. Wolverine just leaps in, viciously trying to kill him. He literally just slashes the shit out of the Windigo. He even makes mention that his adamantium claws don't penetrate the Hulk's hide, but it works fine on Windigo, but he's also immortal, so he's not quite dead. So Hulk's like, okay, they had this weird moment, and then Wolverine just starts smashing at the Hulk again, so they go back into their little fight. Meanwhile, this chick is starting this magic ritual. And as she's doing it, she's releasing this sleep gas again, which causes Wolverine and the Hulk to pass out. When Hulk passes out, he turns back to Bruce Banner. This freaks out her friend. And he's like, yo, this is just a normal dude. We're not going to take this curse and apply it to another person. That's just terrible. So he goes off and sulks away in this cave, coming up with his own plan. Hulk then wakes up again. Wolverine's all tied up. He smashes Wolverine and breaks his chains. They start fighting again, and Hulk just straight up knocks the fuck out of Wolverine. He's stone cold out for the rest of the issue, y'all. So it turns out that chick shows up and her lover, the Georges guy, did the ritual, swapped places with her brother. So now he's the Windigo and her brother is alive. And that's kind of like the twist ending here. And then Hulk kind of has a sad moment with her, and her lover's like, oh, don't you know I did this because I love you. And he goes away, loses his humanity. And that's the end of 181. Wolverine passed out, getting knocked the fuck out by the Hulk. Then we got 182, in which Wolverine appears on one page, and it's right there where the people at the government that he works for, we know him as Department H, I guess, they show up and they're like, you failed, you had 6 hours, you didn't do it. And he's like, oh, let me at him again. They're like, nope. So Wolverine goes back, then they net the Hulk. Hulk easily escapes from it, jumps out, starts hearing the sound of music, finds this dude named Cracker Jack Jackson, kind of has this nice befriending moment with him. He's on his way, he's like a hobo on his way to a prison to meet his son. His son actually happens to be this dude Hammer. There's this white dude Anvil. They have this really interesting dynamic. Like Anvil's like a white supremacist, and they're like chained together, and this random dude with a big head shows up and makes their chain this like, I don't know, the super-powered link between them. It's so weird. Hulk's on the road with Crackerjack Jackson, by the way, and befriends him, and they have this nice relationship. But then when they get there, Hammer is causing all kinds of shit with this Anvil dude, and winds up being responsible for the death of his father. And Hulk's not happy about that, breaks their chains, has a fight with them, and then just tears ass, ends the prison riot, and then goes and buries his friend Crackerjack Jackson. It's actually a pretty sad moment. So there it is. That's the Wolverine Inner Trilogy. 180, 181, 182. You can really just read 180 and 181. 182, like I said, he just appears in that first page, and it's a completely different story. It's a little weird, but it has a little bit of poignancy to it. Is that a word? I think that's a word. But anyway, overall, it was a really fun revisit. I was pleased with it. I read it in my Wolverine Omnibus Volume 1 right here. So it's got the one that's kind of like recolored, but it's the original coloring, but it's on the glossier paper. But it's pretty dope. And it works. It works fine. They place it in this omnibus right after the Weapon X. The Weapon X gives you the origin of that thing, and then it goes into when he goes to fight the Hulk, and he's Wolverine, and then we'll continue on from there. But overall, it's the first appearance of Wolverine. He's not quite the Wolverine that we know yet. There's a little essay in there by Chris Claremont where he says that at this time, Wolverine was meant to be a teenager. He was meant to be a hot-headed teenager. The claws were supposed to be part of the gloves. They didn't reveal that until later, a few issues later on into the X-Men run. But he was a completely different idea of a character that could have eventually just became easily forgotten. But there was something about that character. What is there in the very beginning is that ferociousness, the ferocity, the visceralness of the character. He's slashing and hacking away. He's killing. He like goes after the Windigo. That was really freaking fun, cool stuff. I had a lot of fun revisiting it. I hadn't read 181 in years. And I have read 180. I don't think I had ever read 182 really until tonight. I knew that Wolverine was only in the first page, but they literally don't even continue that story. Like Wolverine's superiors show up, they take him, and then they capture the Hulk. The Hulk breaks out, and just at the end of that story, then we go into this Crackerjack Jackson. And my favorite thing is just Hulk being like, Crackerjack Jackson is my friend. And it's very much like Bride of Frankenstein with the monster and the blind guy. So it was kind of touching. That was a nice little moment. So it's a cool little trilogy to kind of read of Hulk issues from the 70s. Haven't really dived too much into them. Hulk has been by far the Marvel comic I have the least experience with. I've read the original Kirby 6 issues. I've read some of the beginnings of his Tales to Astonish. I've read this stuff now, and then I've read some of the Peter David stuff, but I haven't read a lot of it. I've read some of I've read like all the Todd McFarlane stuff, and I've read some of the late Peter David stuff. And then from that point on, like Joe Casey into Bruce Jones and going on, or into John Byrne, into Paul Jenkins, into Bruce Jones, and then I have consistently been reading Hulk. But as far as pre-80s Hulk, I really don't know much. Even don't know too much about 80s Hulk. I know some of the ideas, but there you go. William says, isn't 74 the same year as Astonishing Tales 25, Thor 225, and ASM 129? It might be. I have to think. I have to think about that. But it was nice to revisit this look at Wolverine's first appearance back in the 70s. And that, my friends, was Marvel in the 70s.